Welcome to another edition of Best on Tour this week, presented by bestontour.net for the week of July 22nd, 2025. I'm Matt Pangrac along with the co-host Dave Rush from bestontour.net. And Dave, a very busy week, both on and off the water as we get back into the final push for the 2025 tournament season at the professional level and also wrap up 2025 ICAST.
Absolutely, Matt. Everybody's still recovering from ICAST, but no time to recover. A lot of information coming out from both major tournament organizations, as well as the final Tackle Warehouse Invitational kicking off this week.
July 21st, Bassmaster Elite Series announced their 2026 Progressive Bassmaster Elite Series schedule, a mix of familiar and new fisheries on it, beginning in February at Lake Guntersville, Lake Martin. The Bassmaster Classic returns to Knoxville, the Tennessee Tom Bigby Waterway, the Arkansas River in Muskogee, Oklahoma, Lake Murray in South Carolina, and Santee Cooper in South Carolina. A return to the Pasquotank River, where we saw a runaway victory by Kyle Welcher last year, and then two familiar stops back on the schedule to wrap up the season on Lake Champlain and the St. Lawrence River at the end of August.
Yeah, I know, guys. We're excited to get the schedule, start breaking down their travel and researching the lakes, and pretty solid schedule.
The BPT also came out with their schedule. Best on Tour has compiled both the Elite Series and the BPT schedule, as you can see right here with the BPT in red: Lake Guntersville, Lake Hartwell, Lake Whitney, and Waco in Texas. OHIV in Brownwood, Texas. Red Crest 2026, I believe, is yet to be announced. A major return here, though, Dave, a familiar stop once on the FLW Tour with Rogers, Arkansas, and their association with Walmart back in the day, but Beaver Lake back on the schedule, which in professional and fan circles is a big return to professional fishing for Beaver Lake.
Yeah, huge amount of history on Beaver Lake as far as major FLW tournaments are concerned in the past. Good to see the BPT returning to Beaver Lake and what that holds.
After Beaver Lake, heavy hitters with a smaller field will be on Orange Lake, now somewhat becoming a semi-annual stop for at least one of the tours at the top level. Grand Lake in June will be a test for the anglers, and then wrapping up with another probably predominantly smallmouth tournament in August on Lake Erie. One of the first times that a major tour has been on Lake Erie in recent memory.
Yeah, for sure. And I think interesting to note also is the only stop in the state of Florida for both major tours is the heavy hitters event this year.
The third and final schedule that was released was the Tackle Warehouse Invitational schedule, a 6-stop schedule in 2026. So the invitationals will be returning with a championship as well in September. They start at the Harris Chain in February, then Santee Cooper, Wheeler Lake, Douglas Lake, Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma, Lake Champlain to finish out the season in July, and then a championship September 18th through 20th on the Kissimmee Chain. So it looks like back for 2026, the Tackle Warehouse Invitationals will take place.
Yeah, it looks like a good schedule. Some overlap as far as venues for the other two major tours, but solid schedule all the way around. Excited to see how that pans out in 2026 for sure.
Speaking of the invitationals, later this week, the final invitational on the St. Lawrence River takes place, where the 5 new anglers will be welcomed into the 2026 Bass Pro Tour. Banks, Shaw, and Dustin Smith would say nothing's a lock in fishing, but have a substantial lead in that, followed by Mitchell Robinson, Chad Mrazek, and Bobby Lane in 5th. That third place in the standings, though, Mitchell Robinson, a very interesting dynamic, and it looks like it might come to fruition, Dave.
Yeah, we have had the father and son duos on tour before. What we have not had on a professional level tour to this point is a father and 2 sons. The Robinsons looking to accomplish that at St. Lawrence River. They usually travel as a family, super supportive group there. So I would expect the whole family will be on hand to see if that can go down.
Speaking of potential more father and sons at the tour level, let's turn our attention to the third stop of the St. Croix Bassmaster Opens division presented by Seven. They are at the upper Chesapeake Bay this week. Like I said, for the third out of the fourth stop, they then go to the St. Lawrence River next week. A very interesting points race shaping up here. Now, remember, just the top 50 make the EQs to go on. However, some guys that are definitely a lock in that appear to be Laker Howell, who is currently sitting in second and is headed to the EQs, as well as in the top 10 this year. Making a return to former greatness is Russ Lane, sitting in sixth halfway through that. So looking down on that list, it is no qualifications for the 2026 Bassmaster Elite Series season, but that top 50 in both Division 1 and Division 2 looking to make the EQs. But well on his way in second is Laker Howell. And then also Trey Swindle is in 47th in that, the nephew of Gerald Swindle, also on the Bassmaster Elite Series.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. You have to handle step one there before you can get to step two, the final stage of making it to the Bassmaster Elite Series. So those guys are on track to do just that in their division. So interesting to see how that pans out there this week. A lot of history also on that tournament venue.
All right, let's take a look at some of the industry news. A lot of press releases and not a lot of new product releases. A lot of press releases and tournament organization information came out of ICAST week. We've earmarked several that we thought were the most interesting, starting with an interesting and kind of exciting move by Bass with Roku.
Yeah, as most of us are familiar with Roku TV. It's a streaming platform. Most smart TVs have that available. Bassmaster announced that they have launched a 24/7 fast channel with Roku that will be strictly bass fishing program. They gave some examples of what's going to be on there, old stuff, new stuff, and I would suspect they develop some new programming that they will announce soon as well. So if you need a 24/7 bass fishing fix, the Bassmaster Roku channel is definitely one you want to have.
Over on the MLF side, Bubba and Major League Fishing announced the launching of Score Tracker Live. It is a tournament platform for all anglers and tournament organizations where you're able to host tournaments. This is a quote from their press release. It says, whether you're running a professional league, college team, high school competition, fishing club, or friendly neighborhood derby, Score Tracker Live empowers tournament organizers to build, host, and manage custom fishing tournaments with ease, all on one platform. A continuation of Major League Fishing use of the catch, weigh, and release format, and then also bringing back an app-based that the scale and the app work in coordination beginning in the spring of 2026 for a small fee. You can now host, run, organize any tournament across the country using Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
Yeah, ever since the initiation of the Score Tracker system, there's been rumblings of trying to get that out to the masses. MLF partnering with Bubba Scale to get that done via their app, and also that allows the general public, different tournament organizations, to fish exactly the same format that the BPT fishes, catch, weigh, release. Will be interesting to see how many tournament organizations around the country adopt that.
You were in ICAST in Orlando, Florida this past week, a long list of best of show products. In one that sticks out to me that I know you were keenly aware of was the best in electronics category, the three main brands there, and a big win this last week for Humminbird.
Yeah, Humminbird coming through with the best of electronics category win, which is very interesting with their new Explorer series. For those of you that have been big fans of the Helix series, they are discontinuing the Helix series and I wouldn't say replacing with the Explorer, but adding the Explorer to their lineup. So Explorer coming out of ICAST with the best of electronics award, and I got a chance to look at it, and some really cool features, a touch screen unit. So something you might want to check out if you're in the market for some new electronics.
For those of you who didn't get to catch it live, Best on Tour, you and BTL, myself, I was in studio. You were live from ICAST. We did 3 hour-plus long shows where we walked through the ICAST show and highlighted a lot of the new tackle rods, lures, accessories. You can check that out on the Bass Talk Live YouTube channel or your MP3 platform if you want to go back and see some of the new things that are coming out of ICAST. Become a better angler, get behind the scenes of the top fishing tours, learn the business side of the fishing industry. The Best on Tour newsletter brings you all that once a week, completely free. And they still just go to bestontour.net, type in your information, and it's in your inbox every single week, right, Dave?
Just that simple.
All right, this has been another episode of Best on Tour this week. Join us next week where we talk about what happens both on and off the water in the world of professional bass fishing. And we will talk to everybody then. See ya.
See you guys next week.